So the session that I just went to is entitled The Economics of Green Retrofits, and it was a couple of academics and a guy from Davis Langdon, and they did a study of buildings over 20 years that have gone through green retrofits, mostly related to energy use. But what I found really interesting about this is that they just threw a ton of data, quite frankly at a rate that I couldn't even absorb appropriately, so I'm hoping that I can get the slide deck at some point and really take a look at them. But they covered really just everything from drivers to green retrofits, why people went through the process of doing it, how much they cost, where they focused their efforts. They even broke it down into climate zones, who from what areas of the country did what. And there were some pretty interesting statistics that came out. Let's see here. And by the way, halfway through it, I managed to lose half of my notes, so that wasn't fun and a little frustrating. So some of the things that came out is that the rent rates were actually remarkably similar. So the perception that you can get much higher rental rates is maybe not necessarily true, and it kind of depends on where you are. New York and Boston, higher rental rates, but they also pointed out that it's because there's just a lot less of their stock is LEED certified. Only 5% of the building stock in New York is, ergo the rental rates are much higher. But their average is about 7% rental increase for LEED certified buildings. But what I found most interesting was how they broke down the cost of greening, and I think I captured a lot of this information. So they showed the baseline KBTUs per square foot per year for certain strategies, what the current best practices are, and about how much they cost to implement, kind of on an average. So for example, lighting upgrades, the baseline was 10 to 15 KBTUs per square foot per year. The current best practices are about 4 to 7 KBTUs per square foot per year, but the cost to do those retrofits is about $3 to $5 per square foot. So ultimately, once they looked at plug loads, lighting, ventilation, cooling, heating, if you do some of these strategies, you can reduce your KBTUs per square foot per year by about 30 to 50 for about $10 to $20 per square foot. So it's pretty interesting. Though what I really loved is once they actually got into the Q&A component, they were talking about, well, how do you really measure what a green retrofit is? Because sometimes somebody does something just because it's pretty, and it might happen to also be cool or interesting, and it's not purely ROI driven. And what the panel said is something that we as a chapter have been saying for quite some time, is the analytical data and the ROI and the payback is really just information that a person needs to make the emotional decision that they're going to want to make, whether that's positive or negative. So, if they really, really want those solar panels, they're going to use the data to make the argument that it's a good value. If they really, really don't want the solar panels, they're going to use the same data to make the same argument to get out of having to use them. So ultimately, the information is important, but at the end of the day, it's all about the emotional decision to do what's right or to not do what's right. So really good session. Next up, I'm going to one of the Master Speaker series, the author of the Medici Effect. So I'm pretty excited about that. See you later.